Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 9th International AIDS Society Conference on HIV Science. This year it's in Paris, and I'd like to welcome Tamas Bereczky, who is from Budapest, who would like to speak to us today about his work in EATG, the European AIDS Treatment Group, as well as having been a mentor and a teacher in EUPATI, the European Patients Academy. So Tamas, I'd like to get an idea from you about what you see here in the conference this year and what you don't see here in the conference this year.
Well, it's very good that you ask these two questions. Actually, there's one very important thing that I see, and I think it's very exciting, and it's related to our work in the European Patients Academy that you very kindly brought up. Which is that we can see a synergy emerging across disease areas. And a very good example for that was when EUPATI fellows from the cancer area spoke at the HIV Cure satellite 2 days ago, which shows that, as people with HIV age, we also have to face additional challenges from other illnesses, from comorbidities, including cancer, for example. So it becomes more prevalent as people with HIV get older, and there are some specifics as well that we need to consider, but also there are certain areas in cancer treatment which simply overlap with HIV treatment. So we can learn a lot from each other, and there are bridges and synergies building across disease areas and patient communities, which I find tremendously interesting and important.
Yes, because I think we can work with solidarity across disease areas.
Yeah, that's correct.
And for example, I work in rare diseases also, and I find the same thing. So yes.
So I think that's a tremendous thing to see how everything comes together so neatly. Now, the other thing, to your other question, what I don't see happening in the conference, that's again Central and Eastern Europe. So I have a huge issue with how much Central and Eastern Europe is being erased from the whole HIV debate, and we keep concentrating on all the tremendous results that have been achieved in other places in the world, while we just keep mum about the problems and challenges in Central and Eastern Europe, with particular regard to Russia.
So, for example, the WHO, the World Health Organization, is here a lot, and they're speaking a lot about many issues around the world. Are you suggesting that they're not speaking enough about problems in Eastern Europe?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting, and this also applies to UNAIDS. So, and I've always been very vocal about this criticism, that I think it's just not enough to always concentrate on celebrating our achievements in Africa, and don't get me wrong, these are tremendously important, but when we talk about the 90-90-90 and when we speak about the treatment continuum, we keep ignoring the fact that there is no such thing as a treatment continuum in Russia. So we cannot even measure this. This is not, it's nonsense.
And does that go beyond Russia? Does that also include parts of what used to be the old Eastern Europe, like, for example, Hungary, possibly the Balkan areas also?
To some extent, yes. But then you also have to see that these countries are low prevalence countries, which means that we have different problems and maybe fewer problems.
But for example, access to treatment is one of those problems? Or
yes
not?
And no. Yes and no. So we suffer from stockouts from time to time. And what is a bigger problem is that because HIV remains a rarer disease in these areas, in the low prevalence countries, this means that there's less attention paid to HIV, and also that we just simply have to cope differently, and that the system is very fragile. So the biggest problem is the fragility, the vulnerability of the system.
So going back to Russia, how do you see that being resolved in terms of what can be done to, for example, get people on treatment, get better prevention programs started and so forth in Russia and ex-Russian countries?
I think that you have to be more political about this whole process. So this needs political action and political commitment, something that Mikhail Kazachkin has been doing and speaking about for decades, in fact. So he's really been very vocal, and I think that his work would need more support. And also there is a very strong, amazingly strong community of people living with HIV and people living with hepatitis C in Russia and in the Central Asian countries, and they would need more support from us, from the global north and from what we call the West, so from the more developed parts of the world. We should concentrate our efforts more on supporting these communities, these people, because they really do a lot.
And one final question is actually the fact that my feeling is that the governments themselves are not interested in the problem. So part of the solution is to convince the governments to start also supporting their own people, not only from the outside, but also the governments themselves.
But that's political commitment. So you would need increased political commitment from the WHO, from UNAIDS, and from other. Maybe the only one who's really doing some dedicated work there is the ECDC, the European Center for Disease Control and Prevention. They have always been working very enthusiastically around this topic, but you need political action, political commitment, more handshaking, more diplomacy in order to convince these governments, because their resistance is also political. So it's not a public health issue, it's a political matter. So you need to do political work, and demonstrating all the good results from other places in the world does not suffice. So you need to do more.
Thank you very much, Tamas, for the interview today. Thank you.
Thank you.